Hey guys, it's Jeff. Welcome back to O'Connor Woodworking. If you're ready to start using hand-stitched rasps in your woodworking, stick around. We're going to talk about the origins of this, how they're made, how to use them, and how to maintain them. A rasp is such a simple tool for woodworking, but it's been used forever. And there are things you can do with a rasp that you just can't really get with any other tool. So I use these quite a bit in my woodworking. I wanted to talk a little bit about what a hand-stitched rasp really is. If you look at a hand-stitched rasp up close, we're going to use this one because this has larger teeth than the other ones. These teeth that are on this rasp are all created by hand. They use what's called a barleycorn pick with a little hammer, and they put all these in there individually across here. And you can see that they're not always in line. They're kind of scattered around a little bit. There's a little bit offset going on. And the reason they do that is that creates a finer cut. So the reason we want to have a hand-stitched rasp like this is for that very reason. As we're going across the wood, we want there to be randomization in those teeth so that we get a nice smooth cut going across. The problem with some other rasps is when they're machine made and they've got these teeth straight in a line, what happens is as you come across that wood, all you're doing with the following teeth is reinforcing the grooves that you're making. So you kind of dig into the wood and it produces a really poor surface. So hand stitches is the way to go. They're not cheap, but they're well worth it. Now, the best company to make these by far is RU. They're a French company and they've been doing this for over 150 years. So they know what they're doing. And they put about 2 years into each guy to teach them how to get the hand stitching done. So I want to show you a couple differences here in the teeth and style of rasp, and these are the three I work with most in my shop. So the first one I always start with is my combination rasp. They call this an Albee combination rasp. What we have here is a 5-9 combination. So we've got a 9 on the back for the teeth, and the number 9 represents the grain. So the grains run from 1 to 15 on the rasps, 1 being most coarse, 15 being the finest. So this has a 5 on this side, I'm sorry, a 9 on this side, and a 5 on this side. So I usually start with the 5, and that's my most aggressive cutter that I use in this shop. Next, I might go to my 9, but most time than not, I'll jump over right to the 10. This one here is what's a cabinet maker's rasp, and it's got the number 10 teeth on both sides. But what we have here is we've got a surface that's rounded, and then here we've got a flat surface. So depending on the area you're working with, you've got plenty of teeth and plenty of ways to achieve your goals here. And lastly, I'm going to show you the modeler's rasp. Very similar to the cabinet maker's rasp. You can see it's got the same curvature to it. It's a lot smaller though, and this is a number 13. So remember, these go up to 15, but I usually stop at 13 and then continue on to do sanding later on. So these are the three that I use most in my shop. And I'm going to show you today how I use them as I work on this Maloof chair. So stick around. Here I have a rocker of walnut that's going on to the Maloof rocking chair that I'm working on. It's made of laminated walnut here. I've rounded the edges off already with my router just to save time. You know, we talk about how time is money when you're producing items, and this just saves me a little bit of time to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split my line going down the center of this so I can keep track of my progress as I start using a rasp, because when you're shaping by hand, you want to kind of keep everything kind of even, and it's hard to do sometimes as you're working, especially with low light or reduced light. So this is going to be my guide here, right down the middle, and that's going to, as I round up, I'm going to be rounding up towards that line itself. And I'm going to start off with my 5, as we talked about. As we use a rasp, we want to try to use all the teeth. So as I come across, I don't want to do this kind of motion. That's wrong for 2 reasons. One is we want to do it in just one motion. We don't want to pull back and use the teeth again, because we're going to dull this tool a lot faster than it needs to be. And once a rasp is dull, it's done. There's not going to be any sharpening to it. So we want it in one sweep, and we also want to make sure that we're using all the teeth we can. So as I come in, I'm using all the teeth, and it's one sweep across. I might come back this way as I do it, but I'm not putting any pressure on. You'll hear it come up, but I'm not actually using the rasp and just kind of guiding myself up that way. So I'm going to start working on this. And we're using all the teeth we can to cut that corner down. And now I'm going to come over to this side. Same thing. Now the harder you push with a rasp, the more you're going to take off. So you can kind of fine tune it. A lot of times you don't even have to use a different grain. A lot of times just reducing the amount of pressure you put on a rasp is going to bring it where you want it. So we're going to work this for a few more seconds and we'll be back to take a look. All right, guys, let's take a look now at where we're at here with the number 5. So you can see it's rough, okay? Now this rasps in general are what they call shaping tools. So this is the roughest it's going to be. And you can see that as I'm working both sides, I'm working towards that center line and trying to keep things nice and balanced as I go. So now we're going to progress to the number 10 cabinet maker's rasp. And again, we're going to do the same motion. We got more to utilize now, but we're going to come across the same way, utilizing as many of the teeth as we can. Sometimes you can't use the whole rasp, but as many as you can to save those teeth. We're going to keep this going until we get to that center line. We'll see you in a couple minutes. So we spent a couple minutes with the number 10 cabinet maker's rasp. Let's see the progress we've made now. Well, you can see here, we've got a much smoother surface now. Our center line is now gone because now I've got the crown that I want. So the shape that I wanted to establish is now done. And my only goal now is to come in my number 13 and just take those scratches away and make the surface as smooth as I can. But one thing I wanted to show you real quick are the cool shavings you get from a rasp. So you're not really getting dust, you're getting almost mini shavings that come off of it. So it's a really cool way of shaping your wood, and it's very rewarding. It feels cool as you come across it too. So let's take a look at the 13. This is a little guy, this is kind of the Pee-wee version. They do make a 13 that's a couple inches longer, but again, same process. I use the pressure going down, and all I do is I follow it back up. I usually track up. I usually keep it on the wood and track up so you can hear it. But remember, you're only using that pressure as you're pushing forward. We'll do this as long as we need to get us to the point where we feel like we can finish this off with our sanding and bring it to a level of a nice luster. I usually sand up to about 400 grit on these chairs before I apply the oil. All right, guys, I'm just lightening up my touch now with my 13, and we're going to be done here. And I'm happy with that. We've got a really nice feel to this wood. It's ready to get that sandpaper going on there and finishing everything up. So that is an introduction to the rasps, guys, but before we close out, I just want to talk really quick about maintenance. So with the rasp, you can see here, you're going to get some of that wood that's embedded in the teeth itself. Now, you can avoid that by treating your rasp with camellia oil and avoid it being able to clog as much. Also, you're going to want to clean this. So I would recommend some type of soft brush or firm toothbrush to clean it. RU says do not use the wire brushes, only use these bristle brushes. And you just run it across there. I actually got this brush from Tools for Working Wood, and it's made for this process here. And finally, if you're not going to use your rasp for a while, just take this and wrap it in an oily rag and just protect it from corrosion. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.